It's been a whole week since my last fight with Jiang Ming. Looking at the empty wooden board on the opposite bed, I felt a mix of emotions. At the same time, I also regretted that if I could have talked to Jiang Ming nicely that day, perhaps things wouldn't have developed into what they are now. Jiang Ming and I grew up together. Specifically, there is also an employment relationship between Jiang Ming and me. When Jiang Ming was 8 years old, he was kidnapped. However, he was very smart and ran out while the robbers were asleep. At that time, I was picking up mineral water bottles under the overpass, calculating how much money these bottles could be sold for. When I first met Jiang Ming, the young master was covered in dirt, but only his pair of eyes were bright and wise. Just when I thought he was a fellow picker and was about to say hello, the young master calmly said, "If you send me back, I'll give you a reward of 3 million. I pursed my lips and stepped forward to touch his forehead. He should have hated being touched by strangers. As soon as my hand was placed on it, he slapped it away forcefully. Due to the large movement, a small red string around his neck caught my attention. Having been in the society since childhood, I recognized at a glance the jade safety buckle hanging on the red string. It was of excellent quality. That night, I took him back to my secret base and dug out the 1,000 yuan I had saved for a long time. This was still my private money saved secretly from the dean. I took the young master by taxi back to the distant Baigang city overnight. Who would have thought that I really picked up a treasure? Jiang Ming is not only the young master of a wealthy family but also an S-class alpha. Those kidnappers kidnapped him just for his sky-high priced glands. An S-class alpha is really great. They are full of treasures all over, unlike me. I'm just an ordinary and defective alpha. Yes, I have a congenital defect in my gland and my pheromone is incredibly faint. Maybe that's why my parents threw me away. However, Jiang Ming's father was very grateful to me. After learning that I was an orphan, he proposed to sponsor me. But there was one condition: I had to protect Jiang Ming. Bang! The dormitory door was kicked open forcefully from the outside. I withdrew my thoughts, frowned and was about to scold, but when I saw it was Jiang Ming with a dark face, I immediately put on an obsequious smile like a Sichuan opera face. "Changer, Jiang Ming, you're finally back. Do you know that Uncle John has been checking on you every day these days?" I'm running out of excuses. Jiang Ming paused in the middle of taking off his clothes. He glanced at me coldly with a straight face. "Should I give you a raise?" I suddenly felt as if I had a fishbone stuck in my throat. I tightly grabbed the edge of my pants with my hand hanging by my side and whispered, "What do you mean?" Jiang Ming quickly changed his upper body clothes, curled his lips and sneered, "You've said so much. Don't you just want money? Name your price. How much more is appropriate? Or, give you another 3 million? No, take a deep breath, take a deep breath. He's Jiang Ming. I can't beat him, can't beat him." I closed my eyes and it took me a while to calm down the anger in my heart. Before I could open my eyes, the familiar smell of brandy wafted into my nose. This is Jiang Ming's pheromone, spicy and intoxicating. He pinned me against the wall, reached out and gently tapped the tear mole at the corner of my right eye and said playfully, "Are you angry? I'm just joking with you. It's the physical fitness test this period. If you don't change into your sportswear, you'll be late." Looking at Jiang Ming's proud back, I felt a million expletives raging in my heart. Jiang Ming is crazy, extremely crazy. When I arrived, the teacher had just finished taking attendance. Of course, I, the unlucky one, was publicly criticized. Maybe still not satisfied, I was also punished to run 10 laps around the playground. And Jiang Ming was sitting on the chair beside, leisurely basking in the sun. There was also a group of omegas around him, holding all kinds of snacks. They surrounded Jiang Ming, each with a shy look on their faces. In the past, Jiang Ming always had a cold face, looking like he didn't want anyone to get close. But now he's like a peacock showing off its feathers. I felt even more irritated. Especially every time I ran past Jiang Ming, he would exaggeratedly take chocolates or snacks from the omega's hands with his mouth. I couldn't stand it anymore. I stopped running, strode up to Jiang Ming, grabbed his collar and pulled him out of the group of omegas. It wasn't until we reached the changing room that I let him go. "Young Master Jiang Ming, can you think about my situation? You're engaged. If you act so promiscuously, it's really hard for me to do my job." Jiang Ming immediately frowned and said, "Don't mention this to me, William. You know who I like." "Of course I know, but I wish you didn't like me. Then there would be one less doomed relationship in the world." I realized Jiang Ming's love in the summer of my freshman year. That was the first time Jiang Ming entered his susceptible period. At that time, Uncle John was on a business trip abroad. I accompanied Jiang Ming in the safe house for 3 days. Everything was fine until late at night on the 4th day. I heard a roar like that of a wild animal coming from the room. This is actually a normal phenomenon. Even if an alpha without an omega has used inhibitors, they will still experience unbearable symptoms during their susceptible period. However, Jiangming is different. He is an S-level alpha, so his reaction is naturally more intense than ours. Because I was afraid something would happen to him, I ignored Uncle John's advice on the phone and pushed open the door. The pungent smell of brandy almost made me kneel directly. It was suppression, the suppression from an S-rank alpha. Some bloodthirsty factors in my blood were completely activated. They roared crazily in my mind, trying to control me to go up and fight. In an instant, the whole room was filled with the collision of two pheromones. Brandy and lemon. It was like a freshly mixed glass of strong liquor. Jiangming was lying on the bed with his eyes closed, his face showing an abnormal blush. I bit my tongue hard until it bled before I managed to regain a glimmer of reason. Jiangming, are you okay? After waiting for a long time and seeing no movement from Jiangming, I got up in a panic and started looking for my phone on the floor. The next second, someone grabbed my foot hard from behind. When Jiangming pressed on me, I could feel that he was going straight for my gland. Because he was smelling my gland. But the suppression from an S-class was too strong. I was lying on the ground, sweating all over, as if I had lost control of myself and couldn't move at all. These were not the most terrible things. The wet touch on my gland made my mind go blank. The gland on the back of the neck is like our throat, a fatal spot. Jiangming licked my gland. After realizing this, I started to struggle wildly. Jiangming, wake up. I'm William. Jiangming buried his head in the back of my neck and murmured almost absent-mindedly, Gigi, you smell so good. You can forget about that. Get up for me. It was very painful. My chest felt like it was going to explode. No wonder people say that when two alphas are together, one of them will get hurt. I could also feel that Jiangming had several times opened his fangs and started to rub them on my gland. He should also be trying his best to restrain himself. Every time it came to a critical moment, he would stop. I was lying on the ground like a drowning man, gasping, Jiangming, calm down. As soon as I finished speaking, Jiangming turned me over again. Looking at Jiangming with blood-shot eyes, I subconsciously started to struggle again. It seemed that I finally enraged him. Jiangming grabbed my neck and kissed me, domineeringly taking away any trace of air in my mouth. It was not until I was short of oxygen that I had to bite his tongue hard. The stinging pain made Jiangming sober up a lot. Finally, he let go of me. Looking at me with heartache in his eyes, he gently stroked my lips and said in a deep voice, sorry, does it hurt? After that, Jiangming fainted. Coincidentally, the doctor sent by Uncle John also arrived. None of us spoke, but we all knew very well that my body was full of Jiangming's pheromones. Later, after Uncle John returned to the country, he specifically avoided Jiangming and talked to me. He said that Jiangming's bloodline was the most precious thing in the world and the Jiang family had carefully selected a well-matched omega for Jiangming. He also said that I was good at judging the situation and should always know who I was. I'm quite self-aware, but you should tell your precious son to stay away from me. In the evening, Uncle John called and asked me to ask for leave with Jiangming to attend David's homecoming banquet. David, the well-matched omega for Jiangming, comes from a family of merchants for generations and controls half of the financial industry in Baigang City. Moreover, he is the only son in the family. Judging from the conditions, he is really a good match for Jiangming. I just don't know what he looks like. What are you thinking about? I'm thinking about what your omega looks like. As soon as I finished speaking, I immediately came to my senses. When I turned around and looked at Jiangming beside me as I expected, the young master had a gloomy face again. I rubbed my temples with a headache and said, Jiangming, how long are you going to be angry with me? Why can't we be together? Here we go again. I rolled my eyes and was about to speak when Jiangming interrupted me. William, if you continue to recite physiological knowledge to me, I'll jump out of the car right away. Uncle Lee, who was driving, couldn't help laughing for a moment and then quickly raised the partition. For a moment, only Jiangming and I were left in the back row. I looked at Jiangming's red face due to anger. His big eyes were so watery that it seemed as if he was going to cry the next second. I lowered my head and let out a long sigh. Who could have thought that the formidable S-rank alpha, who was so cold and unapproachable in public, would be a little lamb in private? Before getting out of the car, I raised my hand and gently patted the top of his head. I said earnestly, Jiangming, apart from the fact that we're both alphas, I'm also 2 years older than you. I'm already an old man. Can we just pick on younger ones? The response I got, of course, was a cold stare from Jiangming, plus a get out of here. The banquet was held at the Jiang family's place. Although it was called a homecoming banquet, it was more like a family gathering. From this, we can see that the elders of the two families are really in a hurry. I didn't go in with Jiang Ming. Instead, I went directly to the second-floor study through the back door. Uncle John. Jiang Xing was sitting on the sofa and waved to me. I immediately stepped forward and sat obediently on the sofa next to him, waiting for him to ask questions. Yanji, has Jiang Ming caused any trouble recently? No, Uncle John. Are you sure? Hearing this question, I suddenly felt a pang in my heart as if it had confirmed my suspicions. A stack of photos was flung at me. I could even feel a slight pain on my cheek, but I didn't dare to move. I could only lower my head and stare fixedly at the photos scattered on the ground. It was the scene that day when Jiang Ming cornered me in an alley outside the school and questioned me why we couldn't be together. The person who took the photos was very professional, taking pictures from all angles. Coupled with the dim streetlights, the atmosphere was as ambiguous as could be. Yanji, I've always thought you were a smart kid. But now, the things you've done have nothing to do with being smart. In that case, let's suspend the construction of the orphanage next quarter. I was suddenly shocked and then knelt on the ground with a thud. I said with difficulty, Uncle John, I was wrong. I'll pack my things and leave White Harbor during this period. The orphanage is at a critical juncture now. You can't stop. I've never told Jiang Ming that I'm carrying the fates of too many people, which the old dean entrusted to me before he died. When I came out of the room, the banquet downstairs was already halfway through. With Jiang Ming and David at the center, it was extremely bright within a radius. Those upper-class people were clinking glasses and chatting merrily. David had a thick barrier patch on his neck and was holding a glass of wine in his hand. The dimples on his cheeks were faintly visible. He stood beside Jiang Ming, neither overbearing nor humble, looking exactly like a prince from the last century. I pinched the thin card in my coat pocket and suddenly felt a pang of sourness in my heart as if there was a hole in it. As if in telepathy, Jiang Ming suddenly looked up at me. His furrowed brows and the hand that slammed the wine glass on the table all indicated that he was unhappy. Fortunately, I took the hint and headed straight for the terrace. Come on, young Master Jiang can go crazy at any time. If he really causes a scene, the money I just got will fly away. In late October, the wind was already a bit cold. I wrapped my coat tighter and stared deeply into the distance. Jiang Ming took off his bite stopper and stood beside me. After taking a few deep breaths, he said in a deep voice, "What did the old man say to you?" I gritted my back teeth, turned around and stared at Jiang Ming and asked, "How long have we known each other?" 14 years. Jiang Ming's blurted out answer made me dazed for a moment. The wind was getting stronger. For the banquet, Jiang Ming had specially styled his hair, but now it had been blown into a mess like a chicken coop. Time seemed to turn back at this moment, perfectly overlapping with the scene 8 years ago. At that time, Jiang Ming was also like this, wearing a well-fitting but dirty little suit and with a messy head of hair. At that time, I thought that no matter how embarrassed the children from rich families were, their aura would never change. Now I admit that back then, besides the safety jade pendant, the main reason I chose to help Jiang Ming was that I wanted my future life to be better. I didn't want to pick up trash all day long. I wanted to seize the opportunity that Jiang Ming presented to change my life. If only I hadn't fallen in love with Jiang Ming. Then I could enjoy everything that belongs to me without any scruples. I lay back on the railing again, squinting and whispering, "Jiang Ming, you've always been asking why two alphas can't be together. Or rather, why the two of us can't be together. Maybe this is the first time in all these years that I've seriously answered this question." Jiang Ming was so excited that he didn't even notice the bite stopper in his hand had fallen. All his attention was on me. I paused for a moment and then pointed to the garage in front where there were countless luxury cars parked. "Look, your family has so many luxury cars that they can't even fit in the basement. And me, I only learned to recognize all the car logos a few years ago. When people see you, they'll at least call you young Master Jiang. But for me, it'd be good if 1 in 10 people remembers my name. Jiang Ming, we're so different. You're the bright moon in the sky. I'm just the dust on the ground. If I hadn't taken a gamble and chosen to trust you back then, how could there be a William about to graduate from college?" No. Jiang Ming stepped forward and held my face with both hands, hoarsely saying, "William, I'm not some bright moon in the sky, and you're not the mud on the ground. You promised me that in this life, I'd only be your Jiang Ming." I slowly clenched my fists hanging by my sides, using all my strength to restrain the restlessness in my heart. All along, I've complained, hated, and regretted. I don't understand why the person Jiang Ming likes happens to be me. It turns out that it was all my doing from the start. After sending Jiang Ming home that year, he was sick for a long time. After all, when those things happened, he was just an 8-year-old child. Since he got sick, he didn't allow anyone to get close to him except me. In high school, once when Jiang Ming saw an Omega giving me a love letter, he got really angry on the spot. He kept asking me if I was going to leave him and if I was tired of him. At that time, all I could think about was the money his father sent me every month. I couldn't see anything else. I only knew that Jiang Ming was my cash cow. As long as I could coax him well, the kids in the orphanage could live better and the dean wouldn't have to worry about sponsorship every day. So that day I casually promised I'll never leave Jiang Ming. Jiang Ming will always belong to me. I swallowed the metallic taste in my mouth, calmly raised my hand and placed it on the back of his slightly trembling hand, smiling extremely cruelly. Jiang Ming, I lied to you. How could you be so easily deceived? Jiang Ming was stunned for a moment, then he punched me hard in the right face. Not to mention that he used all his strength in this punch, just the natural bloodline suppression. After staggering several steps, I still fell to the ground. The metallic taste in my mouth became even stronger and some even flowed out along the corner of my mouth. Jiang Ming stepped forward, grabbed my collar, and said with red eyes, "William, it was you who came to provoke me. If you really dare to run away, I'll break your legs and make you sit in a wheelchair for the rest of your life." When he said this, I couldn't help shivering all over. Jiang Ming wasn't lying. He really would break my legs. After all, he was an extremely persistent and pathological person. Just as we were at a stalemate, someone pushed the door open and came in. "I'm sorry. I didn't know there was someone here." I glanced to the right and found it was David. The strong pheromones in the air were dispersed by the wind. I could clearly see the look on David's face. It seemed to be disgust. Jiang Ming angrily threw me aside and slammed the door loudly when he left. As soon as he left, David said in a low voice, "Are you two together?" I touched the wound at the corner of my mouth, silently cursed in my heart, then got up and slowly looked at David. It was really strange. Just now upstairs, I still thought David was like a prince from the last century, but now I suddenly felt a bit sick. The word "get together" is very harsh. I don't like to hear it. David suddenly burst into laughter, circled around me, and finally concluded, "Your pheromones are so faint that I almost couldn't tell whether you're an alpha or a beta. Does Jiang Ming have such a peculiar taste?" I suddenly stood in front of him, extremely arrogantly pulled out the silk scarf from his dress pocket and wiped the blood on my hand bit by bit. He was so frightened that he took several steps back and bumped into the door. His face turned pale and then red. I hooked my lips and threw the silk scarf on the ground and said in a deep voice, "David, don't challenge my patience. I'm different from you pampered young masters. I used to be a hooligan. God knows what I might do." Hearing this, David pointed at me and shouted angrily, "Bah! Shameless thing. Your sordid affairs with Jiang Ming would make you a laughingstock if they got out. Jiang Ming even dared to marry me. I'm the one who finds it disgusting, not him. You alphas are all such disgusting creatures." I could no longer bear it. Just as I was about to raise my hand to strike, a cold voice came from behind, "William, it's time to go home." On the way back, after much thought, I finally decided to speak up. "Does that David have an alpha aversion complex? I'm not going to marry him." Our simultaneous words left both of us stunned for a moment. However, I keenly noticed that Jiang Ming's left cheek seemed to be swollen. "Damn it, Jiangxing hit you?" Jiang Ming impatiently slapped away my hand and said sarcastically, "You're so bold to call your benefactor by name directly." I rubbed my nose and said irritably, "Did you protest to your dad?" When David was studying abroad, he was temporarily marked by a drunk alpha. Although it was just a temporary mark, David still had a huge shadow in his heart. "Then did your dad agree with you?" "David won't marry me and he has always been rebelling against his family." "Damn it." I excitedly straddled Jiang Ming. Grabbing his collar, I said, "Are you playing with me? It doesn't make any sense. Don't you want to respond to me?" Jiang Ming put his hand on my lower back. With no expression on his face, he calmly said, "You've seen through me." Shit. I couldn't carry on this conversation at all. I couldn't remember when I fell asleep. All I knew was that when I opened my eyes, I was lying on a soft big bed. Jiang Ming's messy-haired head was on my chest, pressing me so hard that I could hardly breathe. Staring at the ceiling and in a daze for a while, I really had no idea where this was. I pushed Jiang Ming away, got up and walked outside. I found that this was a 2-bedroom and 1-living-room apartment. Except for the bedroom where I just woke up, it was fairly tidy. The other places were just like they had been bombed. No, specifically, it was like a refugee camp. The unopened boxes all over the floor clearly told me that this person had moved in a hurry. "You're awake." I turned around and pointed at the things on the ground, asking, "What does this mean?" Jiang Ming opened the fridge, took out a bottle of water, unscrewed it considerately, and put it in my hand. Drinking water as soon as I wake up is my long-standing habit. Get up and start cleaning right away. There'll be another truckload of stuff coming soon. Hey, dude, can you at least tell me what's going on? While unpacking the boxes, Jiangming said, we're already seniors. According to the regulations, we have to vacate the dormitories for the freshmen. Taking this opportunity, I had a showdown with my dad. I left home with nothing. I stood there in shock, my mind going blank. Finally, I could only murmur, Jiangming, you're really crazy. However, this was not the worst. On the third day, when Jiangming dressed in a suit and tie and was about to go out, he locked me in the house. I finally understood why the family doctor used to say that Jiangming would be extremely terrifying when he grew up. On the fifth day of being locked up by Jiangming, no matter how I threw tantrums, threatened, or coaxed, Jiangming refused to let me out. During this period, he completely cut off my contact with the outside world. I had no idea what was going on at the orphanage. The anxiety made me more and more irritable every day. For example, today I splashed the soup Jiangming made for me on him for the first time. Let me out. Are you crazy? Jiangming frowned and slowly squatted down to pick up the pieces on the ground one by one. After all, he was a pampered young master. He should have done this kind of work for the first time. When he picked up the third piece, blood dripped on the ground. At the same time, it was like a hammer hitting hard on my heart. I was so annoyed that I paced back and forth on the spot and then squatted down, stopped picking up. I grabbed Jiangming and dragged him to the sofa in the living room, then rummaged through the medicine box in a panic. Jiangming, are you a fool? Gigi, I'm scared. The iodine in my hand spilled all over the floor. I looked up in horror and stared at Jiangming. He stroked my face and choked with sobs. Gigi, can you spare a little of the attention, care, and love you have for the orphanage for me, even just a little? I choked with sobs. You know, I'm really working hard on starting a business now. Believe me, just give me a little time, and I'll ensure that all the responsibilities on your shoulders are perfectly taken care of. I won't let you be threatened by my dad again. For the first time in these days, I sized up Jiangming so seriously. He was indeed more haggard than before. Suddenly, I remembered that several times when I woke up in the middle of the night, there was his tired figure under the light in the study. A well-born young master of a noble family has ended up in such a state. I let out a long sigh. Jiangming, are you tired? He hugged me into his arms and shook his head like a rattled drum. Not tired. I'm not tired. I stood still, my chest heaving violently, and tears streaming out like a broken faucet. After a long time, I opened my arms and hugged Jiangming tightly back. Jiangming, I'm a person with my own thoughts and a healthy body. You can't keep me like a pet, right? Jiangming nestled in my neck and let out a soft, I looked at the bright red roses on the balcony, vivid and flamboyant. It was like a guide in my confused life. So what if I'm with Jiangming? After we cleared up the misunderstandings last time, I regained my freedom, and my relationship with Jiangming returned to the way it used to be. Jiangming and I studied game development in college. Fortunately, Jiangming inherited the excellent genes of his family and was very smart. But what I didn't expect was, another partner who started a business with him was actually David. When we met again, David was still as annoying as ever. As soon as he opened his mouth, I wanted to punch him in the head. William, you're such an idiot. That day, Uncle John's men were following and taking pictures of you. I kindly helped Jiangming put on a show. But you even wanted to hit me. To be honest, I still want to hit you now. After taking a few deep breaths, I calmly said, well, thank you so much, Your Highness Prince. Sensing the sarcasm in my words, David waved his fist and came at me. I quickly hid behind Jiangming and shouted in a shrill voice, help! Someone's trying to kill me. This kind of thing happened almost every day. David and I seemed to be natural enemies. We always quarreled whenever we met. However, in some aspects, I had to admit that David had talent. Both he and Jiangming could almost be in sync, whether it was about their entrepreneurial ideas or game design. As for me, although I went to school with Jiangming, my abilities were far inferior. On their entrepreneurial journey, I could only be a reliable support staff to ensure their physical health. 3 months later, on the day when the game was officially launched, the number of players exceeded 10 million, and its popularity dominated all the social media in White Harbor. In the evening, the three of us held a celebration banquet together. At the dinner table, David, instead of being his usual mean-spirited self, was like a sly villain and kept toasting me, saying, "Hey, that safety buckle of yours is a great thing. Take it off and let me have a look." I quickly stuffed the rope back into my clothes. I said arrogantly, "Beg me and I'll let you see it." We ate until midnight. David said his boyfriend was coming to pick him up and left in a hurry. David always said he had a boyfriend, but I had never seen what he looked like. Jiang Ming and I stood at the restaurant entrance waiting for a taxi. My head, already dizzy from drinking, was completely muddled after being blown by the cold wind. I swayed from side to side like a tumbler. In contrast, apart from 2 blushes on his face, Jiang Ming showed no other signs of being affected. Jiang Ming put my hand into his overcoat pocket. Under the illumination of the street lamp, Jiang Ming's face, having shed its childishness, was even more charming. Driven by lust, I stood on tiptoe and gave Jiang Ming a big kiss on the face. Then I stared at him stupidly and smiled. The more I looked at this boy, the more I liked him. Then, everything started to get out of control from that kiss. In the taxi, I was like an ant on a hot pan, feeling extremely restless. My hands also started to get unruly. I kept trying to get into Jiang Ming's clothes. Fortunately, the driver was a beta and couldn't smell the strong pheromones in the car. With great difficulty, I endured it until we got off the taxi. As soon as we entered the elevator, I hugged Jiang Ming's neck and started kissing him. After all, Jiang Ming had also drunk alcohol. He usually couldn't control himself, let alone now. We were like 2 impatient beasts, tearing at each other all the way into the house. As soon as the door closed, Jiang Ming immediately took the initiative and pinned me against the door panel. He just gently licked my Adam's apple. I immediately lost all resistance. But it's not that easy between 2 alphas. Without accident, the newly replaced furniture at home was smashed to pieces by us again. I grabbed Jiang Ming's mischievous hand and said breathlessly, "It was you last time. It's my turn this time." Jiang Ming nibbled on my earlobe and licked it intermittently. "Gigi, you're drunk. You should enjoy it." What a lousy excuse. I tried my best to resist, but unfortunately David didn't know what kind of wine he had given me. At this moment I was completely limp and weak. Throughout the whole night, Jiang Ming was like a person who had just tasted meat and couldn't be satisfied. When I lost consciousness, there was only one thought in my mind: I must beat David's head tomorrow or I'm not William.